Is it going? Hey everybody, just figured I'd send a quick check.
This is Paul Ferguson. Tragically, his brother Timothy passed away just prior to this live stream.
For those of you who aren't aware, my little brother has passed away, and it's a lot to deal with, but we're fine.
With such devastating news, viewers quickly showed him support during this terrible time, but unbeknownst to Paul's fans, this would be his last live stream ever, because as it turns out, Paul himself was behind the death of his younger brother.
911, what's your emergency?
I woke up to take to go to work. Yeah, and my son's not breathing.
In reality, Marcus was still there, hidden in a back bedroom. Over months, neighbors would later say they heard shouting. Teachers noticed Evan coming to school tired, sometimes angry, sometimes withdrawn. But no one suspected what was happening behind those closed doors. When paramedics finally arrived at the house, they found Marcus severely underweight, barely responsive. He was pronounced dead at the hospital. The official cause of death? Complications from extreme neglect and malnutrition. That's when investigators began asking questions. Why hadn't Marcus seen a doctor? Why hadn't anyone called for help? And why did Evan, who had just live-streamed about his brother's death, seem strangely calm in later interviews?
Oh, ma'am. I'm Officer Stefanich. Right now we got some people coming over to talk to you, okay?
He's been wearing really loose clothes the last couple of weeks.
He's really skinny.
He's really skinny, and I didn't notice till this morning because he wouldn't, I asked him if he's okay, and he would not answer me. He's 15, he's been...
He has autism?
Yeah.
Like a high-functioning?
Yeah. I had no clue how bad it was. Oh my God. He did this back in... my husband's stroke was January 3rd.
Mm-hmm.
So he did this back in, I don't know, second week of January for almost 3 weeks. And then he ate something last night. I can't remember what it was now, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
As police dug deeper, disturbing details began to surface. Friends told investigators that Evan often complained about Marcus, saying he was lazy and a burden. Teachers recalled Evan bragging about being the man of the house, and neighbors reported hearing Evan yelling at someone late at night through thin bedroom walls. But the most chilling discovery came from inside Evan's phone. Messages, videos, private recordings. They showed Evan taunting his brother, mocking his weakness, refusing to bring him food unless he begged. Prosecutors later argued that Marcus had become completely dependent on Evan, and Evan had abused that power. The live stream now took on a horrifying new meaning. Evan hadn't gone live to mourn. He had gone live to control the story, to look like the victim, to make the world believe this was sudden, tragic, unavoidable. But evidence showed Marcus had been suffering for months, and people around him, especially his own family, had done nothing to stop it.
I don't want to talk anything specific about the case just yet. Since the police showed up at your house and they brought you down here, I want to advise you some rights before we talk about that sort of thing. What I do want you to know, though, is that we went through your phones, okay? There's a lot of evidence in the phones, and I know that you're kind of aware of the communication between yourself and your mother. Yeah. And those sort of things. And that's kind of what I want to talk to you about. Yeah. But, certainly those are very serious things that you guys are talking about. Yeah. I know that we talked yesterday. And I know that not everything that we talked about was the truth yesterday. That's okay. You don't have to feel bad. You don't have to feel guilty about not telling the truth to me. I'm about trying to get to the truth of what really happened with your brother, because he deserves that. I mean, there's clearly a lot of messages about stuff that you guys are doing with him, about what he's eating, about restricting his food. How did that all work?
We stopped different restrictions recently because we had noticed his end
We wanted to get that back on. We didn't want any of this. We never wanted him to be injured or hurt. I loved him so much.
Yeah, I can tell that.
I just
certainly tell that.
And we wanted what's best.
Yeah.
The thing is, he was stuck in the past.
So you stopped the food restriction. When did that kind of happen?
2 weeks, approximately. We were hoping that we could get enough where it would be safe and then we could continue to add it back to where we wouldn't have to worry and we could...
What were the restrictions?
We made sure that it was still something that gave him enough calories and everything. It was rice or bread, and like I said last week, he got pizza. We loved him. We wanted what's best. We made sure that it was still something that gave him enough calories and everything.
What were they in place for, like in the first place?
Sneaking food over and over and over. We tried everything. We were nice. We tried different consequences, but I couldn't never listen.
What were some of the other types of consequences?
We did take away his devices. That was also because he wouldn't stay on his school sites. He would just go and try and play games or watch YouTube. He should have been held back so much.
Yeah.
But he passed all of his final exams. And so I don't think it was my stepmother. My stepmother was amazing.
Yeah.
But I believe it was my father's too.
Okay.
But my dad's controllish, freaky nature was just, he didn't want her having any contact and screwing all of his control out. Okay. The thing back in Oklahoma where I had problems with emotional release. I was so terrified of him that I didn't ever want to release any of the negative emotions I ever had around him. There were times where I wanted to say no, but I was so terrified that I just couldn't. Here, I can release my anger, and I do it in the right ways. I never do it in any way that I'm not supposed to. She had her tubes undone for Gabriel. He was a blessing to this world.
Yeah. You not to know that? Certainly. That he's a blessing.
Of course. Yeah. She loves him so much, you know?
Would there be any sort of consequence for your mom if you slipped up with her attitude like her? How would that work?
There were times when I would cop an attitude that was unnecessary, and she would have me get off devices for maybe 15 minutes, because usually that was what it was revolved around, because I'll be honest, I have an addiction to my devices.
Okay.
I never had not very much of that back in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
My dad was strict. He didn't even give me a phone. My sister and my stepsister had phones before I did.
So now you're in work. And then you talked yesterday about how you're paying bills.
Yeah, and I'm like, my father, she doesn't force me to give her half of my paycheck. He forces that on me. And I was working basically minimum wage at both.
Yeah, that's tough.
And the thing is that my mother can't even face my father right now. She doesn't want to call him, because the one thing that she and I both know is that he's going to hurl every ounce of blame that he can at her. I moved here into Michigan, I think, serious.
Okay.
Because for the time after I had moved out of my parents' house, I stayed with my Uncle Dave now, and who both had actually been tricked by my father to also believe that my mother was bad.
I saw on your phone that you had sent a couple of pictures to your mom.
Yes.
Pretty skinny, and you said, it's nothing but skin. But
yeah, I was very concerned that it just...
Yeah, what do you think that maybe would have been a good time to take him to the doctor, or...?
Yeah, honestly, that probably would have been one too. I don't know.
And then you sent a picture of like his legs that were just basically gone, right? And
Yeah, I believe
you can't stand or something along the lines.
Yeah, but the thing is, yesterday and I think the day before, he could walk. He might need a little support every so often, like he put his hand against the wall or grab the rail of the stairs. But after a couple of seconds, he let go and be fine.
Okay.
It was never anything major.
When was like the last time he was really like talking to you, like able to have a conversation, or at least try to have a conversation?
Last time he actually talked was 3 days ago, but the day before, or the day after that, the day before yesterday, he could talk. He talked a small amount in the morning, but then he just sort of was making groans and moans.
What's the photograph in the bath of his face, like zoomed in on his face?
He'd been taking a bath, and I went in there to check on him at one point, and he was just kind of laying there. I'm like, "Bud, you okay?" He didn't respond. respond, but he was looking around, and he was breathing. I know that much.
Yeah, but he wasn't talking at that time.
No, and it started to concern me. I'm not sure if I texted Mama about it or not.
Well, you sent a picture to her.
Yeah, I probably should have said something about the ER taekwondo.
Well, I'm sure
It's not stupid.
you have to think about it like this, right? She's a grown adult, and if she sees that, that's not all on you, right? You made it, from what I see, you made numerous attempts to say, we need to do something different about this.
Yeah.
We can't keep doing this thing.
I know she's a good person.
Yeah. I think you have to think about this. Right now, it's not a time about blaming people, but it's the time to try to figure out when could we have changed things, what could we have done differently, how did we get to the point where we were at? Because, clearly where you guys got to, you say you moved back. That wasn't a nice enjoyable bath though, right? That was a punishment bath. Right? That's a cold, ice cold bath.
I did wash that.
How many times would you estimate that you guys gave cold baths as a punishment for not getting or whatever, for whatever reason?
I think for punishments, I don't exactly know the number, but it wasn't a lot.
Are we talking like 5, 10, 20, every day, every other day? I mean, any idea?
5.
Whose idea was it to give him a cold bath as a punishment?
It was my mother's. I wasn't sure if it would be a punishment effective or not.
You remember the first time you guys did it? Why? Like, what did you do?
Not exactly.
What did you do on that day that you snapped the photo that made you have to give him a cold bath?
I think it was that he not only peed, but also pooped. And my mother wasn't too happy because it absolutely reeked. Yeah.
I mean, we talk about bed. I understand you've been to the house and get through all the messages.
Yeah.
Where do you sleep most of the nights? In that closet?
We always wanted what's best. And
so you guys decided to move him into the closet. There's an alarm on the door. Is that so? What's that for?
When he would try and sneak, because if you notice, there was also one in the garage door. That was also because, there's some food in there that he would try and sneak. And it wasn't just that he was hungry at some point for those. It was that he wanted something to eat. Where I regret the fact that I hid somehow something. And I've told you everything I know.
How do you feel about living a life where you hid that your brother wasn't eating from society, that you hid that your brother was dying? How do you feel about that?
I hate myself, okay?
Ice bath, she gave him ice bath on the day that he died, right? Leading up to it. And she wanted him to sleep in the tub. That's what I read. Did that happen? Did he sleep in the tub?
No.
He didn't.
No.
He didn't in that bathtub and you guys dragged him into that closet and waited for the morning to call the police? That's not what happened.
No.
Do you think that message is just a little bit suspicious? That she sent you at just about midnight that says, he's in the closet, I had to drag him in there. You don't think he was already dying or dead at that point? Doesn't it seem like maybe he was already dead? That she put him in there so that he could wake up and have died in his sleep? Because she can't call the police when he's in an ice bath and he freezes and he dies.
I can't even live with myself.
But how do you feel about over and over and over again defending your mother about how good she is? Do you feel like that's the truth anymore? Because I'm quite disgusted by her. I'm disgusted by her.
She never wanted this.
Then how smart is your mother?
She's incredibly intelligent. Magna cum laude.
Right. Have you ever thought, how come a woman that's this smart, this intelligent, graduate from law school, how could she not know what's happening? How could she think this is fake? How does she not know she's him? How does she not see that he's wasting away? And you're telling me that you've got some mental health issues, but you graduated from high school, and it's very obvious to you that he's got malnutrition, right? It's very obvious to you. But your mom here's not seeing that, and she's a law school graduate, and she's very smart. Do you see what I'm looking at here? Yeah. She's a liar. What did she think was going to happen?
I don't know.
Exactly what happened is what she thought was going to happen.
She never wanted him dead. She loved him.
That's love to you? Everything that we talked about is love? You're joking, right?
Keeps it going. Hey everybody, just figured I'd send a quick check. We're doing good right now. I just dozed off on the couch unintentionally. For those of you who aren't aware, my little brother has passed away, and it's a lot to deal with, but we're fine. But just keep supporting. I guess don't put up much I say right now.
Do you utilize some type of alarm or alarms on his body to alert you if he was moving?
A vibration detector, yes.
Was there more than one that he was required to wear at times?
At times, yes.
Where were those devices located on his body?
They were normally tied to the back loop of his belt.
Was there something placed on his wrist as well at any point?
Handcuffs, and before that, zip ties, zip cuffs.
And those were designed to restrict what?
Movement.
When the case went to court, the community was stunned. How could a teenager be capable of something so cruel? Psychologists testified that Evan showed signs of severe emotional detachment and need for control. Prosecutors said this was not an accident, not neglect, but a slow, deliberate pattern of abuse. The jury ultimately agreed. Evan was convicted on charges related to his brother's death and sent to a juvenile facility, later transferred to adult custody. Today, the live stream still circulates online in clips. People see a crying teenager, a tragic story, a brother in pain, but now those same words sound different. Because behind that trembling voice was someone who already knew exactly how his brother had died and knew exactly what he had done.
Mr. Ferguson is trying to shift blame from him to his mother, to say that somehow she's the one that did this. This has been a careful, manipulated story by Mr. Ferguson from the very beginning of this thing, that he's going to put the blame on his mom. In my opinion, Paul Ferguson was predisposed to abuse his brother, independent of his mother's present and active influence in his life. I think he's one step away from becoming a psychopath like his mother. And the court is concerned that he represents a danger to the public. Mr. Ferguson, I think you are a product of your environment, but I don't believe you that you're sorry. I don't think you have empathy. I don't think you have any emotion whatsoever. And that's what scares the court. Believe me, I've tried to sit here and try to think, well, maybe Mr. Ferguson's not as bad as Mom. I think you're just as bad, if not worse.
Before you go, remember, the truth often hides in plain sight. And sometimes the people we trust the most know far more than they let on. If you want more real stories where every hour counts, you're watching True Crime 48 Hours. Stay curious and stay safe.